Shock! Europe has put forward a new proposal to end the war, a buffer zone nearly 50 kilometers wide. Meanwhile, Putin's appetites have unexpectedly diminished. Russia no longer wants 4 regions of Ukraine. Turkey has announced the Kremlin's new demands. There will be no meeting between Putin and Zelensky. The dictator got scared. More on all this coming up. Watch until the end. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Darina Hutsakalo, and here are the latest events. The EU proposes to create a 40-kilometer buffer zone between Ukraine and Russia. This is reported by Politico.
European leaders are considering the possibility of creating a 40-kilometer buffer zone between the Russian and Ukrainian front lines as part of a peace agreement, Moscow's latest desperate idea, which is likely to increase the modest number of peacekeeping troops on the continent.
Media outlets citing diplomats note that this proposal is one of several being considered by military and civilian officials regarding a post-war or ceasefire scenario in Ukraine. At the same time, it is still unclear exactly how many troops the Allies would be willing to send to patrol the border.
Officials are discussing anywhere from 4 to approximately 60,000 troops, but the countries have not yet made any commitments, and President Donald Trump has rejected the possibility of an American military presence.
However, it is already known that French and British troops are likely to form the core of the foreign military presence.
Poland and Germany have stated that they are not interested in sending troops to Ukraine, while tiny Estonia has even pledged to deploy some forces. The Allies expect that Ukraine will still provide the lion's share of troops near any ceasefire line or buffer zone.
Nevertheless, Jim Townsend, a former Pentagon official who oversaw European and NATO policy under the Obama administration, believes that in this way the Europeans are clutching at straws.
The Russians are not afraid of the Europeans. If they truly believe that a mere handful of British and French observers will effectively deter them from their planned invasion of Ukraine, then they are profoundly mistaken.
Meanwhile, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan made a shocking statement. The Russian Federation no longer insists on controlling the entire Donetsk region.
Previously, there was a desire to fully resolve the issue of the administrative borders of the 4 provinces. We see that certain principles were agreed upon in Alaska.
According to him, the proposal concerns handing over to the aggressor about a quarter of the non-occupied territory of Donetsk region and fixing the front line in Zaporizhia. However, Fidan warned that agreeing to such terms and losing part of Donetsk region could significantly weaken the defense of the rest of the region. The Ukrainian side stands firm on its position, ceasefire. At the same time, the possibility of a meeting between the head of the Russian Federation and the president of Ukraine remains a top topic for discussion. Volodymyr Zelensky once again confirmed that the issue of ending the war must be resolved at the level of the 2 leaders.
Ukraine is ready for a meeting at the leaders' level. Only in such a format can all the most important issues be discussed. However, in response, Russia only puts forward new conditions and continues its aggression.
Thus, on the eve, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that the leaders would meet when the agenda for such a summit is drawn up.
This agenda is not ready at all, indeed.
Let us recall that Donald Trump stated he does not seek to be present at Zelensky's debut meeting with Putin, since, according to him, the leaders of Ukraine and Russia have a complicated relationship.
It's like oil and vinegar. They simply do not get along very well at all, for some quite obvious and understandable reasons.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
At the same time, the US continues to pleasantly surprise. A new statement that could truly change the course of events. Washington is taking on the supply of strategic assets. For whom and what kind of super powerful weapon is being discussed? Don't miss what's next.
The United States of America will make its strategic contribution to security guarantees for Ukraine. High-ranking European Union officials have reportedly communicated this information to the esteemed Financial Times newspaper.
Financial Times. The US has promised Europe support for peacekeepers in Ukraine with air cover and intelligence.
It is reported that Washington is ready to support the presence of European allies in Ukraine with intelligence information and protection of Ukrainian airspace.
Europe is planning to provide Ukraine with significant security guarantees, and they have to do it because they are right there. We will be involved as a backup resource. We are going to help them.
It is very important that the United States has realized that without guarantees, Ukraine will not agree to implement not just Putin's wishes, but won't even sit down at the table to discuss them because, to give up the Donetsk region, even the cities that are not occupied. What for?
The willingness of the United States to make its own contribution is a very important signal for Europe. Over the past few months, the leaders of European countries have declared their readiness to participate in a peacekeeping mission on the ground and in the air, with one condition: mandatory support from Washington.
Europe must play its part, and I am ready to consider the possibility of deploying British forces on the ground alongside others. But there must be support from the United States because the security guarantee from the US is the only way to effectively deter Russia from attacking Ukraine again.
At present, it is about the White House providing assistance in logistics, command and control of troops, intelligence and surveillance capabilities, all those things on which any potential European contingent depends most heavily on the United States.
In fact, what this means is that the United States has given the green light to European countries for a possible peacekeeping operation scenario on the territory of Ukraine. And let me remind you, more than 10 countries have declared their readiness to provide troops from their own armies to carry out a peacekeeping operation on Ukrainian territory.
It is also reported that there will be support with military equipment, in particular air defense systems, which will provide cover for European forces in Ukraine.
The military component will be accompanied by the United States of America, meaning that the US will handle the staffing of the mission, of course, at the expense of the Europeans. But that's already something because the personnel have to come from somewhere. Where else can they get it if Europe doesn't have enough of its own military production? In order to do this as quickly as possible and to implement those very security guarantees, the United States is, in essence, the only viable country. There is no alternative.
In addition, after the end of hostilities, Washington will provide its own aircraft and ground-based radars, which will help establish an air shield over Ukraine.
This already involves the use of an aviation component, which will nullify the ability of the Russian occupation army to use the aerospace forces of the occupying country to carry out missile and bomb strikes, both against logistics infrastructure and accordingly against peaceful Ukrainian cities.
The issue of reliable security guarantees is crucial for Ukraine. Without American support, there can be no talk of any reliability at all. In addition to the European peacekeeping contingent, the Russian aggressor will have to take into account American military equipment, aviation, and intelligence information.
How do you assess the latest statements regarding possible scenarios for ending the war in Ukraine? Please share your valuable thoughts in the comments section below and kindly hit the like button directly under this video. Also, stay thoroughly up to date with all the main news. There are already 455,000 of us subscribed. More exciting content is certainly to come. See you very soon.